For this effect, we're basically trying to create an automatic system that will detect footsteps when a character places its foot on the floor. It could be useful in a number of circumstances, maybe in a TV series where you have characters in a dusty environment on an ongoing day-to-day basis. You know, an entire show may have the characters traipsing through a desert, and you may want to have their footsteps kick up dust as they walk along. Another use for this kind of system may be with vehicles. You could change it so that it worked in a similar way, but it actually worked with car tires. And you know, as the car drove through the desert, then it would also kick up dust in a similar manner. The effect is actually quite a simple one. It's just very practical in that, you know, as I said, it's just a time saver. It's pretty easy to set up. It's pretty much automatic once you've got it set up. You just need to get the sort of footsteps going in there. And it can be used also with multiple characters, so it's very easy to actually scale up the number of characters that you're going to get dust from using this effect. So rather than hand animating dust on each character, you can very easily add their feet or collision objects which are based on their feet to the particle system. And then you've basically got all the extra dust going on for free. So let's have a quick look at our scene just to see how it's all put together. If we have a look, we can see that we have a number of collision objects, and we've got some forces in our scene as well. Over here we've got a universal deflector, and you can see this is actually set up to be the right foot, which you can see I've modelled here. And we've got another universal deflector, which you can see is set up to use the left foot. So you can see these are the picked items here. We have a number of deflectors. You can see we've got deflector initializer, deflector releaser, and we've also got ground deflector. You can see our particle system is here. The placement in a scene doesn't actually make much difference because the actual placement of the particles is based on our objects here, although I think the actual arrow orientation is actually used for this particular system. We've got one wind space warp, and you can see it's actually set up so it has actually got some wind, so it does blow our particles along. And you can see it's also set up to have some turbulence on it. If we wanted our dust to have more of a turbulent effect with smaller turbulence, then we'd have two of these wind space warps, as we've done in so many of the other effects. We just layer them to give more of an organic feel to our dust as it blows in the wind. You can see we've got gravity, and that's used obviously to pull our dust back down towards the ground. And you can also see that we have a drag space warp, and you can see if you look over here that it's set to start on -100. This is useful for any kind of run-up, as I've discussed in other effects. And you can see it finishes on frame 300, so it's just basically set up to have an effect throughout our entire range in this particular simulation. I'll just open up the particle view and turn off the particles for now. And if we zoom in on here on the feet, I'll just explain what we've got here as well. We've got two space warps, and these are used basically to actually produce a sort of suction effect on the feet. When the feet leave the ground, that's when these space warps become active, and they actually suck the dust off the ground as the feet leave the ground. And you can see I've got one for each foot. And another thing to take note is you can see the way I've actually modelled these feet. I actually drew the feet out of splines, and then I booleaned these spline shapes out of a grid, and you can see it gives you this nice even grid throughout the entire foot. And the reason for that was when the foot actually collides with the ground, I wanted it to actually produce a nice even distribution of dust particles when it actually strikes the ground. So if I just had vertices at the edge of this here, then it wouldn't have given me that. It would have just basically given me an outline of where our feet are, where these these toes are. And I didn't want that. I actually wanted a nice even distribution of dust around the entire footprint. So that's why I've actually done that. I've used this sort of grid shape. So that's basically it for the assets in our scene. Let's actually have a look at how these are used in our flow here. So I'll just move this over here, and I'll just maximize our flow. I'll just turn on the flow, and you can see I'm using a cache here, and that's just to speed up the display of our particles once we've run through the simulation once. Let me just turn off this collision object here. We'll just zoom in on the feet, and we'll just see what's going on here.